children wade in the water.
The birth of the United States of America was an experiment in political idealism. After nearly 200 years of immigration to this new world, representatives of the 13 original colonies, albeit exclusively male and from European heritage, endeavored to build a republic upon the ideals of liberty and equality. Learning from the indigenous peoples who occupied the continent before them, they incorporated democracy into their new government. However, hubris and chauvinism would lead these newcomers to justify the annihilation and displacement of the very peoples who had shown them how democracy worked. Exploiting the windfall of this abundant new territory, many immigrants to America forged a living with industry and hard work. Yet others, seeing themselves as aristocracy, built much of their wealth on the backs of unpaid slaves, kidnapped people primarily from Africa, and brought to the New World against their will. Slavery was declared illegal in America in 1865, but hardship for African Americans did not disappear. Black people, despite their efforts to build businesses, receive a quality education, participate in politics, and take advantage of the rights promised by American society, often faced obstacles thrown their way by those in power who refused to accept them as equals. While progress has been made more than 150 years later, the struggle with racism, equal access to fair economic opportunities, and a legal system that disproportionately acts against them continues. Unfortunately, Black Americans with aspirations to realize their artistic talent and ambitions have had to deal with an art world that too often mirrors the discrimination still present in American society. Although there had been steady production by Black artists throughout American history, there was little recognition of it by the art establishment. After the Civil War, many Southern Black Americans migrated north. Beginning around 1920, the predominantly Black neighborhood of Harlem in New York City saw a flourish of artistic activity. Dubbed the Harlem Renaissance, writers, musicians, and artists raised racial consciousness, cultural pride, and awareness of the talents of Black artists to a new and diverse audience. They set the stage for Black artists who would continue this course during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. In spite of this dynamic activity, one has to look hard to find the works of earlier generations of Black artists in museums and mainstream art history sources. A cycle of scholarship biased towards a white male perspective and an art market that was uncomfortable with images of African American life marginalized their work. But what about the work of those Black artists that is not thematically ethnic and which followed popular artistic trends? Their work is indistinguishable in a stylistic and qualitative sense from work receiving acclaim. One must wonder why these artists did not receive the same level of recognition of those artists, primarily white and male, that dominated the art scene and market in the 20th century. Although recent scholarship is beginning to recognize the contributions made by these early generations of minority artists, they remain underrepresented in American art history.